Hey everybody, Ben here from the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Top 5 Friday. Every week we will look at a top 5, probably to do with Blood Bowl. And this week is no different. We are looking at, this week, the top 5 random skill players. So what do we mean by that? Really, it was suggested by a couple of you guys in the comments, which is fantastic. Thank you. Keep up the good work. Keep suggesting stuff. Which players or which player types are going to be the most useful to get a random skill? Blood Bowl 2020 now lets you play for random skills, which it normally costs about half. So for your first ever skill, it's 3 SPP for a random general skill, for a random normal skill, and 6 SPP for a random double, which is a massive difference. So we're going to be looking at the top 5 players, asterisks, that I've chosen that I think benefit from a random skill upgrade. So let's go to number 5. And first up on our list at number 5 are blockers. So why blockers? There are 2 prime candidates, but I think a lot of the strength players will fit into this list beautifully. So the the picture we've gone with, the opportune one, is the Black Orc blocker. So what we're talking about with random skills is strength skills. So the Black Orc blocker and the Dwarf blocker are 2 top and prime candidates to receive random strength skills because they've both already got a combat skill in the way of brawler or block. So that leaves them in a really good place that actually they can pay 3 SPP. There's nothing they're specifically looking for, depending on your build. So if you want to really brew up a team to your exact measurements, then you can. So the skill, this list is not for you. But if you've got an opportunity to, Dwarf blocker gets a touchdown, do I wait for the Dwarf blocker to get another touchdown / a couple of casualties, or do I just take the random strength upgrade now? You can do this. What I don't recommend is you doing this for every player of that category. But for 1 or 2 or half of them, there's really going to be no harm going for a random skill. And random strength skills here on these 2 players is fantastic. So armbar isn't great for this guy, but it is very useful for the dwarf. Tackle plus armbar, really useful. Armbar gives you +1 to the armor roll if they fail to get away from you. Brawler, this guy's going to get a reroll. Brawler may not be useful for a dwarf blocker. However, those times where you've got a 1-die block or a 2-die block, actually it is going to allow you to just knock down a guy extra hard. Break tackle on this guy is fantastic. 2+ escape, basically, once per turn. On the dwarf player, it's going to give you a 3+ dodge away. Grab, he gets a reroll. Dwarf player, going to be massively useful. And this next skill, which is a roll of a 5, a 1 to 3, and a 5, is guard. Both of these guys love guard. And if you don't roll guard and you go with a couple of random guys, maybe just save the rest and go for guard, because that's going to make the rest of these skills really useful. Juggernaut on this guy is going to give you a 2-die blitz, and you get to turn your both down results into a push. Really useful. Dwarf, not quite so much. Mighty Blow, they both love that. Multiple block is going to be useful on both these players and blockers in general, because you are likely to be stronger than them either through guard spam or natural strength. Pile Driver is a very useful skill. So you knock a guy down, you break his armor, you roll injury, he's stunned. Actually, I'm done with my turn. It's a war dancer. It's the Minotaur. I'm risking this. You go for an immediate foul, place your guy prone. 1 player, 1 blocker on your team having Pile Driver is only going to increase the murder rate of your team. So love that. Stand Firm, going to be useful. Like we spoke about in the blockers video, these guys are here to corner your cage and to hold that front line. Strong Arm gets you a reroll, and Thick Skull gets you a reroll on the dwarf. This guy just keeps him in the battle longer. So as you can see, there are a few skills there that you don't want. There are a few skills there that actually would be really lovely. And if you can get them at half the SPP, chef's kiss. Number 4 on the list, I have got throwers. And there are 2 throwers in mind who I think are prime candidates for this. The first one is not on screen. The first one is the Elven Union thrower. And the reason I think a random skill for the Elven Union thrower, going for passing, accurate, yes please. Cannoneer, yes please. Cloudburster is fine. Dump Off is fine. Fumblerooski could be useful. Hail Mary Pass, very useful. Leader, probably useful. Nerves of Steel, definitely useful. On the ball, very useful. Pass, got it, that's a reroll. Running pass could be useful for elves. And safe pass will be useful. So actually, every one of those skills makes your guy better. But the nobility thrower is here because I think it benefits them more than anything. So nobility are a team that need a little spice, and if you can cut down the time by half to start getting those skills, then they're going to be really grateful. So let's think about the nobility passer. Accurate, it's going to make him 2+, 3+, 5+, 6+ for a pass. So your short passing gets way more accurate, and you've got pass. Cannoneer, it's going to make your long bombs better. That's going to be 3+, 4+, 4+, 5+. Going to open up your throwing game there. Cloudburster, probably less useful. Dump Off will be useful, I think, for this team. They're they're a medium movement team, so you're going to end up in a pretty. It might be useful. You don't want it to be useful if you. I joke with Mike Davies on Twitter. He said, how does dump off work? And I was like, well, basically, if you use the skill dump off, you've kind of already lost the game. You've already lost the drive. Fumblerooski, again, reasonably useful. Hail Mary Pass, useful. Leader, useful. Nerves of Steel, insanely useful for this short range thrower. On the ball, really useful. Pass, reroll. Running pass, reroll. Safe pass, just going to help you in the long run, especially if you are throwing in the mix. So again, both of these throwers will just get better at half the cost, and it is down to you whether or not you want it. The other thing to mention is that the human thrower here, the nobility thrower, can also benefit from a general role. Block, it will be useful. Sure hands will be useful. The problem is in that one, there's a whole load that aren't useful for them. So dirty player on your thrower, not a great move. Pro will be. Shadowing will not be. Strip ball, ugh, don't really want that. Tackle could be reasonable, but basically what I'm saying is that the elf wants half the skills you can roll, and if you can take that gamble, you could be really quids in. This guy needs all the help he can get, so getting skills as quickly as possible is just going to make him a better player, and it's going to help facilitate the team. I personally think save up, get the skills you want for throwers, but if you're a gambler, your thrower taking a random skill quickly is definitely going to juice him up. That's right, we've got nobility again at number 3, linemen. And generally speaking, the cheaper, the better. So lineman wise, the reason you want a random is because listen to this list of general skills. Block, definitely. Dauntless, gonna be useful. If you've got one, maybe one Dauntless pair could be really useful. Dirty player, definitely. Fend, this guy gets a reroll. Frenzy, definitely useful if you haven't got too much. Kick, definitely useful. Pro, going to be a very useful skill. That lineman's going to do stuff. Shadowing, incredibly not useful, but that's the way these random rolls go. Strip ball, going to come in handy. Sure hands, really going to come in handy. Tackle, yes, it's going to come in handy. And wrestle, absolutely. So general here, the only thing you don't want really is, what did we say? Shadowing. That means you've got 11 out of 12 options that are just going to be really useful for your player. Now, why the cheaper the better? Well, because actually this will juice up that player and keep their cost down. So the lineman here is probably underrated, no, undervalued, no, just underpowered. It's not good. Movement's fine, strength is fine, agility 4+. Rest of it's garbage. Comes with Fend. Once this guy gets block or sure hands or kick, it has a roll, as well as just being chaff. 55k for a lineman with Fend and kick, or Fend and pro, or Fend and block. Then it becomes a really useful positional. And there are some others that are really great candidates as well, especially in teams of legend. Hobgoblins and Thralls are 40k for a similar kind of player style, but with slightly better agility. But this really does go for all of your linemen in most agility 3+ or 4+ teams. So I'm thinking humans, I'm thinking Skaven. You know, these teams will just benefit from a lineman getting to 3 SPP and just taking a random roll on general. Because if you end up with a dirty player guy, or you end up with that shadowing, actually you can just put him on the line and let him die. It's only 10k. So if this guy here rolls shadowing, It's just 10k more. That lineman gets on the line, eventually it's going to die, or you're going to be able to replace it because it's only 45k. Another reasonable candidate, or not quite so good, would be the Nurgle Rotter. 35,000 now for that piece, but it does have decay, which means when it starts getting beaten up a bit, not going to last forever. So linemen are my number 3. Number 2, and it is big guys. So there's 2 prime candidates for me for this, and there's a lot of overlap, but let's just talk through them. The first one is the Troll. So the Troll is absolutely in line for a random strength skill. So armbar is not going to be great. Brawler is going to be great. Break tackle is going to be really useful to give him a 3+ dodge away. Now the Troll, generally speaking, is going to be on a team where there is a throw teammate option. So having a 3+ break tackle movement to get to where your goblin is really going to open up your playbook. Grab is going to be useful because trolls also tend to be on the front line. Guard is going to be useful because trolls also tend to be on the front line. Juggernaut is probably one of the least ones because blitzing with a troll is a recipe for disaster. Mighty Blow gets you a reroll. Multiple block is not going to be bad when this guy is strength 5. That's going to give you 2 strength 3 blocks. That's normally 1 dice apiece. Actually, a couple of assists. You play that well. 1 troll, 2 blocks. There's a podcast name. Multiple block, yep. Pile driver is probably the one that suffers the most. However, the teams that the trolls are on, Black Orcs, Goblins, Snotlings, all get cheap bribes. So actually getting sent off on a pile driver once you've already mighty blowed somebody into submission, probably be okay. Stand firm, probably the least useful. However, there are going to be times where the troll is on the line and it is on the corner of a cage, or it is protecting a player that you really don't want to get blitzed, and that is going to help. Strong arm is going to be really useful for the troll, and Thick Skull is going to get you a reroll. Now the other piece that comes into play is the Croxagore here, and this is where the lap over comes. So trolls are going to benefit from strong arm and just some of the generic stuff there. The Crocs is going to be supported with other guard pieces in your Sauruses, so multiple block gets even better there, as does Brawler. And with both of these, you may be tempted to save up and go for a random general. If you want your guy to have block, you're going to have to save for 12. General, getting block is really great. Dauntless, Dirty Player, Fend, Frenzy, Kick Pro, Shadowing, Strip Ball, Sure Hands, Tackle, Wrestle. So what's that? Tackle, Pro, Block, Frenzy. 4 out of 12 are good. The rest are not useful for your big guy. So if you want block, save up for it. If you're not fussed, you're happy to take Brawler instead, you can save 6, or you can take a random roll and end up with Brawler, Break Tackle, Grab, Guard, Juggernaut, Multiple Block, Pile Driver. Loads of great skills there. It's a gamble. This whole list is a gamble. But the Troll or the Croxagore are going to be 2 prime candidates to take that early random strength skill and just keep on going. And last but not least, we have Goblins. So my number 1 player type to get a random skill is the Goblin. Now we've got the Black Orc Goblins here. 1, because the graphic is much better, and 2, because these guys have got Thick Skull, I do think they are probably one of the better Goblins to get a random skill because they're going to stay on the pitch a little bit longer. That is going to be beneficial. So Goblins, why Goblins? Everybody else we've talked about general skills, really. Normal skills, so the ones they're normally eligible to get. With a Goblin, they can take agility skills early on for 3 SPP. Goblin scores a touchdown, you can risk agility. Catch is going to be useful to receive a handoff. Diving catch is going to be useful to receive a accurate pass. Diving tackle can be useful. Dodge, got it already. Defensive will be useful to take away that guard element. Jump up is going to be useful because you are going to land on your face if you are thrown, but moreover you're likely to get punched down as well. Leap will not be useful but could be fun. Safe pair of hands, if it is a ball carrier, could be useful because it's quite likely that your goblin is going to get 2-die blocked in the face and drop the ball. At least you get to control where the ball goes. Sidestep will be useful. Sneaky Git will be useful. Sprint and Sure Feet also will be useful. So as you can see, the majority of skills there are going to be really useful. It's really leap, safe pair of hands, diving tackle. that aren't what you want, the rest of them are going to be really useful. So you can go straight in there. And the reason this is Goblins is because it also encaptures the underworlds, hence the background, because they get mutations. Now, there are a lot of mutations that are not going to be useful on a Goblin, but it's going to be fun. Let's talk this through. We've got Big Hand, so that ignores all negative modifiers to pick up the ball. So the Goblin's going to pick up the ball on 3+ forever. Claws is optimistic. Disturbing Presence, going to be useful for 10k a boost. Extra arms +1 to pick up. The Goblin is picking up and catching on a 2+ now. That's really good. Foul Appearance is going to help keep your Goblin alive. Your opponent's going to have to roll a 2+ every time it wants to punch it. Horns. Now the Goblin is blitzing at strength 3. Iron Hard Skin. That is a complete fail. That does nothing. Monstrous Mouth, which is the... is it Sure Hands or Catch? It's the catch skill. Plus, you can't have the ball stripped. Re-roll any failed attempt to catch the ball. In addition, strip ball cannot be used. So it's kind of like catch, but better. Hey, we talked about catch on agility being useful. That's good. Prehensile Tail, not super. Tentacles, certainly not super, but quite entertaining. 2 heads. That's where the money's at. Mutated Goblin with 2 heads dodging literally everywhere on a 2+ forever, except where Croxagores are concerned. And very long legs, that's not going to help you out massively either. Although with your agility access, you could get a leap very long legs Goblin quite early on, who's just bounding around on a, well, it's only going to be a 4+, I think, isn't it? Don't do that. It's a terrible idea. Anyway, mutations, really cool. But the key thing, and this is why Goblins are #1 for me on the random skill, is not agility. Do not, go for it. That's fun. You'll have a great time. Risk a general. Save up 6 SPP. In the olden times, your Goblins would level up at 6 and you'd be merrily on your way. And then you'd be like, cool, rolled a regular. I guess I've got a sprint Goblin now. Nonsense. Save 6 SPP and take a random roll on general. Block Goblin. Dauntless Goblin. So that Goblin is therefore dodging in anywhere and then gets a good crack at punching someone with 1 dice. As far as Goblins are concerned, those are great odds. Dirty Player. Exactly what Goblins want. We talked about cheap linemen. We talked about that. Dirty Player on a Goblin is going to be really useful, and they're going to have bribes as well. Fend. Alright, Frenzy, now you're talking. Terrible idea, but actually there is going to be a time where blitzing somebody and having 2 cracks at knocking the ball out is going to be really useful. Kick will be very useful for your Goblin team. Pro is going to make you a little kind of Goblin that's just more reliable, slightly more reliable than the rest of them. Shadowing, not great. Strip Ball will be cheeky brilliance here on a Goblin. So they run in, they take that 1 dice, they get a push, ball comes out. Sure Hands is going to give you a ball carrier. Tackle could be useful. Goblins have movement 6, and this is it. They're movement 6, strength 2. So Tackle is going to give you good odds against a Gutter Runner, against a Wood Elf Catcher, against any other stunty player. The Goblin gets to be a bit of a bully there, and Tackle's going to really benefit it. And Wrestle, again, dodging in 3+ and having a crack at Wrestle to take down a ball carrier or someone you really don't like, and then you can gang foul. Brilliance. So that is why I think the Goblin is the #1 player to get random skills. They've got options at regular. Agility's good. Mutation for these guys, really good. Get 2 touchdowns with a Goblin. Somehow. And then go for a general, and then you start building up a really cool Goblin. And it's only going to be 20k for that first random general as well. That is the thing that is most exciting. Is for 60k you get a block Goblin. It's just cool. It's going to build up identity, but also really going to help your game. And there's not, with the exception of Shadowing, I think, really a bad option. Fend is not great. See the Nobility lineman earlier. But it's going to give you so much opportunity to roll something great for your Goblin. And the character is just going to keep on coming and coming. So the really interesting thing about this list in general is that the Nobility and the Black Orc team, who are both in the box, look like really good candidates for random skills. So watch that in your leagues, because those guys are going to brew up, and if the coach is feeling risky, could develop really powerful teams with really low TV. Now Ben and I are going to do an episode soon about random skills costing and redrafting, because it's going to be really huge when we go into season 2, season 3, and we start applying the redrafting rules from the rulebook to teams. I think that's what's going to be happening on Fumble as well. So we're going to be looking at that, because there's going to be a case where actually identifying the players you are happy to take a risk on is going to keep your TV low, which means you're going to keep extra block players from season X into season Y without paying a massive premium. And that is going to be so useful. Anyway, guys, I am going to wrap up this video now. Please let me know in the comments below what you think top random players are, because I really want to know what you think of this list. And the next thing is I want to know what your candidates are for random stat up players, because that's the video I'm going to do next week. So get me your feedback as quickly as you can, or your ideas for that, because I want to know what you guys think are going to be the best players for a random stat up, because there's a lot of good candidates. Anyway, I'm going to disappear, and I'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy blocking.